Hi everyone, I'm Vidhi. Thank you for joining this webinar on learning plans in Talk with me. Today we have Abhishek, CTO at Inclusis, Swati, inventor of Talk with me, and Uma, child psychologist, who will share with you some exciting stuff that's coming up. We'll open Q&A at the end, so you can type in your questions during the webinar. We'll answer them in the end. We have open chat so that you can contribute to the discussion as well. I'll be managing the chat and will collate your comments, which we will try to address in the Q&A session. I'll also share some relevant information and links on chat to supplement the discussion. So Abhishek, over to you now.
Thanks, Vidhi. So hi, everyone. Second webinar in the series. We have had our first webinar last time, and we touched upon the idea behind the app and how it can be a pretty good tool for building social interaction skills in real world. We had a short demo as well, and we briefly looked into the possibilities that the app brings to the educators. I encourage every one of you to go ahead and look at that webinar if you have not done it already. So yeah, that's it. So let's go ahead.
Okay, so moving on from there, where are we now and what are we looking forward to?
Right, I'll take that one. So hi everyone. So where are we now and what are we looking forward to? We are looking forward to some pretty exciting stuff. But to share that, I'll have to give you a little bit of a background first. The initial idea of Talk With Me when we first came up with the tool was to build an assistive technology. So someone who has difficulty communicating with others should be able to pick up Talk With Me and use that as a medium to have back and forth conversations with another person. So you pick up a tablet, you go sit next to another person, and the tablet aids you in having a back and forth reciprocal flow of conversation. So that's what the initial idea of Talk With Me was, an assistive device. And we did lots of trials. So by now, like, it's been over a year since we launched it. And even before formally launching it, we've been doing lots of trials. So we got pretty amazing feedback from our users. So like Abhishek said, I mean, we've talked about it in the previous webinar. You can go and watch it. But what happened was our users started to come back to us and say that they want to use it also as a learning tool. Yeah. Now, to learn other things, and that was an interesting idea, because when we first built it, the idea was to teach conversation skills themselves. You teach how to have a conversation. That's a skill in itself. Now what they want to do is use conversation as a medium to learn other things, like everything in life comes down to conversations, really. So everyday science and whatever, everyday knowledge that children are picking up about the world, they pick it up through conversations. A lot of classroom learning is about conversations as well. So, or anything like, job interviews is a conversation. Everything is a conversation. So once you have picked up the skill, the idea of a back and forth conversation, then you want to use that as a medium to learn anything and everything under the sun about the world.
Right. I mean,
that's what people want to do.
Yeah. So, and I mean, using it as a learning tool, but how are these conversations are like fairly openly available to be used in whatever manners the users or the educators want them to use. And so it takes a while for them to build up or to develop a sense of structure about using these conversations to create some sort of method of teaching their learners, and they may as well find it hard to make a sense of, or to build up that sense of progression as well, right? And which is very much required to make it apt for building specific skill development. Absolutely, right?
Yeah. So when we talk about that, it is a learning content. So how to teach and what to teach and what is the levels we need to take, some kind of evaluation criteria for the learning plan or something has to be created, so that will benefit the person to learn better and understand the conversation skills also, right?
Yeah. So from the perspective of learning plans, like when you think about an assistive device, it is a tool that aids you in doing what you need to do. But from the when you start to think about a learning tool, suddenly, the entire perspective changes, because then, like you, Abhishek and Uma, like you mentioned, and now there's there is a certain kind of a progression. There is a evaluation, and then there is different levels and things like that. So that totally changes the perspective of looking at the app. So what we are thinking about is, well, not to change what we're doing, because Talk With Me is very valuable as an assistive tool. What we're looking at is to expand the idea, and somehow incorporate and include what we call learning plans uh, into the existing format, and do a little bit of a test, and see how that goes. So with learning plans, the idea is that, I mean, right now the conversations are quite free on the app, like Abhishek mentioned. By free, we mean that there's lots of different topics which are semantically arranged categories, like animals and routines, going out, whatever. And then there's various conversations under it. But when you think about a learning plan, then you have to come up with a sense of progression and a structure and a pattern. They have to be systematic, right? So that our learners, well, I'm using the word learners because Talk With Me is quite applicable across a wide age range. It can very well be used for someone who's 5 to 7 years old, to till someone who's in their late teens. So it does cover this entire range. So the learners should be able to see the sense of progression, and pick up from one conversation about a topic, and then move on through various different levels of difficulty, and cover the entire topic holistically. So I'll pass this back to Uma. She has some ideas around, some a learning plan for emotions. So yeah, I'll just stop talking, and let Uma pick it up from here.
So, from taking from what Swati said, so when we are talking about the learning structure, so there should be some sequence, like there are certain concept which is involved in a particular kind of conversation or topic. So, in that aspect, I'll share the screen. So when we talk about a learning plan, the topic of emotion. So there will be a lot of content or a lot of things to be learned. So it is related to the concept of emotion, and when we talk about the spectrum, the emotional expression is a very difficult for them also. It is difficult to understand how to express, because each one's perception is different. That's why the way they express is also different. So in that case, we have a few conversations under the topic of learning emotions. So if you see that there are 9 concepts we have placed. So what are the emotions and how do we express emotions? And some of the basic emotions like happiness, sadness, anger, anxiety, fearfulness, disgust, and surprise, and many more. So when we are talking a conversation under the learning plan, we are creating a conversation starting from explaining what is a particular kind of concept. If it is emotion, how or what is emotion, and how to express what do you mean by expressing emotion, and connecting to that learner, what is how that person express when a certain situation comes, then how, whether it is acceptable or to the society or in a other surrounded people. So it is connecting that how to make the person uh, learn a particular kind of emotion or expressing that in a real life situation also. So this is a few conversations we have. This is how do we express emotion, and another one what we have is fearfulness. So there are different situations a person feel fearful. So if it is in that case, how the person is expressing or showing the emotion, and what can changes can be brought in that person's emotion or like that. So this way of conversation will help them to bring changes and understand what kind of way they can do the emotional changes in their behavior also. So currently we have some conversations in the app. You can go and see the conversations in the app itself. And once we do these conversations in the app, it is not that we just restrict the learner doing the app, doing the conversation within the app. We expect the learner is practicing in the real life situation also, so that they are able to apply these aspects whenever it's required. So once that has happened, we have a short checklist also. On the basis of conversations we have, you can check whether the learner could do the activities in real life situation. Maybe initial phase it will be rarely or sometimes. At least not that the answer should always be in the category of always. Maybe some variations will be there, but more or less that the learner is able to use it in a real life situation also. So so what is the main thing is also, it is maybe that a person is able to take and bring it to the real life and apply it real life also, so that it is not restricted to the platform of the app or something. In real life also it is able to transform, or it is a transition phase where the learner is using this and bringing it to the real life situation.
Very interesting, right? And especially because this is something people can right away download and use these templates to create their own learning plans and have their own checklist, right? And then leveraging the capabilities of our app, they can actually customize these learning plans uh, by adding their own images or modifying the text, etc., and make it a very personalized experience for the learners. And so it is not like one size fits all kind of thing, right? So, and it's very flexible, and everybody is different, right? So, and then so this gives them the structure, and this gives them the things that they may want to measure, some guidelines on how they would want to measure it, and then they can just go ahead and uh, go into the learning path, right, really right away. And then it also gives this kind of flexibility, which makes it useful for all age groups, by setting up these conversations and picking it up from different levels as well, right? So I think it's pretty exciting.
Indeed. So, right. So that was our learning plans very briefly, as Uma summarized and Abhishek highlighted the advantages. And what? So yeah, just to reinforce, we shared with you what learning plans are, what we're planning for in the future, and the fact that this is something that can be used right away. We don't have to do anything really.
Yeah.
Just put a bunch of stuff together, put a structure around it, and there you go. And we can make this particular learning plan available for you around emotions. So please tell us if you want it, if you feel like this is something useful to you. You can request for specific learning plans that you would like to work on with your learners, and also the checklist for it. We would be happy to work with you on it. You can create your own learning plans, and if you help in creating those learning plans, feel free to ask us. Yeah, so that was a brief summary of what we shared with you today. Hope you enjoyed and are excited as much as we are to try this thing out. And we would love to get your feedback as well on what you think, and any suggestions on the directions in which we should be moving forward.
So thank you everyone for participating. You can download the app on Google Play Store and App Store. It's only available on tablets at the moment, but we are working really hard to make it available on phones as well. So we will let you know about that very soon. And you can follow us on our social media as well at Talk With Me app. We are on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can, if you have any other comments or queries, you can contact us via email on contact@inclusives.com. Thank you.